Hey guys, my name is Max. Thank you so much for being here. We have a really good video planned out for you tonight. Tonight we're going to talk about two new ETFs. They're from a company called DailyDelta that's new to the business. QUP and QDWN. This is definitely something new. All right, like I said, my name is Max. Welcome back to Covered Caller. We're breaking down these brand new option-based, and definitely it's fair to call these liquid alternative ETFs, QUP and QDWN from DailyDelta. All right, so get this. These guys don't sell any options. They don't pay a yield. They don't own any stock. They own a bunch of T-bills, but they put 10% of their money, their assets under management, every day into an at the money call option, a 0 DTE at the money call option. They do it every night for the next day to expire the next day, so they catch any type of move that happens overnight. It's pretty simple. All right, so I'm going to dive into how much AUM they have, the inception date. I'm going to talk about the management team, and we'll talk about the option strategy a little bit more. And also, I'm going to compare these to the heavyweights, TQQQ and SQQQ. If you guys love options and ETFs, hit that like and subscribe button. Let's roll. All right, so these things are newborns. These are pups. They've been around since March 19th. Also, really great timing to introduce a fund. I mean, I don't know, kind of tough timing to introduce a bullish fund, especially because that March and April weren't great times for the market, right? So these guys don't have a lot of assets under management at this time, but I'm sure that's going to change soon. QUP has about a little over $250,000 under management, and QDWN has a little less than $250,000 under management. But like I say, it's just been a very short time so far. All right, this is from their own literature. According to them, DailyDelta ETFs offer the highest amount of magnification available in the ETF marketplace today through the they seek to provide returns that have magnified upside greater than 2x, 3x, etc., bullish or bearish to the return of a particular benchmark index or position. DailyDelta ETFs offer tools for traders looking to amplify gains, hedge positions, and speculate on market movements. All right, we got an option bro in the house. Kevin Kelly, he's the proud papa to these ETFs. Now he is an option bro extraordinaire. I was looking into his background. He's the designer of Global X product, QILD, which was a big deal and a big product. And that product introduced the ETF world to the covered call world. I mean, those funds have been monsters. Not only that, the really impressive thing was Kevin also helped the CBOE or develop the CBOE benchmark, BXNT, which was kind of the next generation buy right benchmark, they call it. But that's, I believe, the index that the Global X tracks. And I bet he developed those concurrently, but that's a really big deal. This guy's a rock star in the option world. I'd love to get him on the channel. Kevin's company is called Kelly Intelligence, and they advise these two ETFs. Sub-advisors J, by the way, at title. But Kelly Intelligence advises these ETFs and also sub-advises a couple more. I'm going to have another video about some of the other stuff they do probably tomorrow or the next day, but it's an interesting operation. So tonight I'm going to compare these two ETFs with the ProShares ETFs. We're going to compare David to Goliath right now. Here we have David and Goliath. On the left-hand side, we have QUP in blue. And on the right-hand side in blue, we have QDWN. QUP is the bullish fund, QDWN is the bearish fund. Let's start on the left-hand side first with the bullish fund. Well, look at freaking QUP. I mean, and we're comparing this to triple leveraged Qs. Okay. Well, I mean, yeah, QUP did not do great in the pullback. It was down 20% in April. I mean, that's not great, but I mean, freaking leveraged Qs was down. I mean, was down 35%. So it's quite a bit less than the chief competitor was down. Now, the thing is, they've both recovered, and freaking QUP is actually up right now. Now, TQQQ is not up. I did measure these off the low, and TQQQ off the low actually is beating QUP by a little bit. But if you measure since inception, granted, this is only a little over a month. This only goes back to March 19th. But if you measure since inception, or it's almost 2 months now, I guess, the QUP performance was really impressive. The fact that it didn't go down as far, and then it went up and got back above, got its head above water, where the competitor still does not have its head above water. So that's impressive to me. Okay, over here in the right column, right corner, I guess, QDWN is in blue, and you can see both QDWN and SQQQ, which is a leveraged Q's product, triple leveraged, inverse triple leveraged NASDAQ product. You could see when the market cratered in late March, early April, both of these funds made about the same amount of money. They both appeared to be up around 30, 35%, something like that. Then after that, for some reason, SQQQ, not for some reason, the market recovered is why. The market massively recovered. SQQQ lost all the money it had made and then some, and it's down since March 19th. But whereas QDWN, the product from DailyDelta, is actually down a little bit too, but not down as much as SQQQ. I mean, it's a short sample size, but it is somewhat impressive to me. Okay, let's talk potential use cases. So number one, for somebody that doesn't have an option account. Option accounts sometimes are tricky to get. They have to be, approved. You have to apply for different stuff. Sometimes it's confusing to understand how to open an option account and how to make the trades. And when you're selling a call, do you open it is it buy to open or sell to open or buy to close, sell to close? All that stuff's so complicated, right? Nowadays, just buy this ETF. You don't have to worry about it. So maybe even if you do have an option account, but you don't want to mess with picking the strikes and the expiration, or you don't want to mess with having to manage it, decide when to roll it, when to take it off, that kind of stuff. So this could be a use case for those types of people too. Maybe they do have an option account, but they don't want to mess with it in this case. And then also the third use case is for hedging. And I think that's probably mainly what it was designed for. These things could be used in a similar way to the way I use YQQQ. And I use that as a potential hedge to the rest of my high yield portfolio. So in YQQQ is also an inverse Q's based fund. So I was making the comparison. Now the difference is YQQQ, or these ETFs, unlike YQQQ, do not pay a yield and do not produce a dividend. These are purely for growth or for tactical allocation. But now YQQQ can also give you some tactical, can cut the volatility to your fund and at the same time produce a little bit of a dividend. But I use it in the same manner that I use YQQQ. I would imagine people use QUP and QDWN in a similar manner to that. All right, so proceed with caution. I read the prospectus, so you guys don't have to. These guys buy an at the money option every night, right at 3:00 that expires the next day at 3:00. But they do it, right at 3. They do it so they have the exposure overnight. They do it right at the end of the day. Okay. Now they do it with 10% of their assets under management. All they have is T-bills and cash is all this thing has. And then it has an ODTE, a 0 DTE at the money option. I mean, 10% every day. So get this. So if you have a day where the market goes nowhere, these guys are buying an at the money option. So if the market closes at 100 and opens at 100, and they sold the 100 strike for $1, but they lose the whole dollar. That dollar is their 10% assets under management. This fund will lose 10% NAV on days the market goes nowhere, or on days when the market goes down. They won't lose any more than that. That's their limit. They put 10% a day in, and And then what they do is they just put it in that night and they just let it expire the next day. If it's in the money, they take their cash. If it's in the money, they exercise, take their they do their deal. They're using, in the prospectus it says they only intend to use cash, options that are settled in cash. However, I looked at the latest positions and they're actually using QQQ options right now. So, and those are not cash settled. But anyway, I'm sure these guys know how to deal with that. All right, so here's the story problem. So let's think about this. This 10% a day thing kind of has me going here. So here's the story problem. If a fund loses 10% in one day, and then the next day it loses 10%, how much is that fund down right now? And hint, it's not 20, okay? It's 19%. If they lose a third day, they're down 27, 28%. Play that forward 10 losses in a row. And a NAV of a fund like this or with this strategy would be off 70%. And it's, so be aware of that. We recently had 9 wins in a row. It wouldn't be unusual for us to have 10 losing days in a row, especially when a sideways day counts as a losing day, because they buy the option that's one strike. It's at the money, one strike in. It's the next strike. So recently, however, we did have 9 wins in a row, and the NAV of QUP went from a low of around 20 to above 28 in a week and a half. That was impressive. Now, during the same time, the sister ETF, QDWN, dropped from 34.90 to right around 25-ish, which was about a 22% drop in the same period of time. So these things are volatile. Proceed with caution. Use small amounts. They have lots of leverage. All right, check all this over with your planner. And join my Discord if you want to discuss this stuff. I'm not a planner, and we can't help you with that kind of stuff in Discord. We like to talk about the allocations of these funds, different strategies. We like to talk about combining different funds with each other, that the return streams can complement each other. That's the kind of stuff you like. Come check out my Discord. It's free. It'll always be free. And I look forward to talking to you guys. I'm really looking forward to a new lightning spread coming out from Tidal. That should be coming out anytime this month. So I'm going to be looking for that. And that's the next big release on the horizon. That lightning spread is supposed to be a daily payer too. I'm not excited about the daily pay aspect of it, but they didn't ask me about that. All right, guys. Well, let me know what you guys think about this DailyDelta stuff. Are you guys in on this, out on this? Obviously, it's so volatile. I don't think it's a core holding. This is a specialty, for a week or two only type thing. Kind of like you might use TQQQ right now, or SQQQ. But in the short time that these have been around, they're beating TQQQ and SQQQ. I'm going to keep an eye on it, and we'll see if they continue to beat them. But that's pretty impressive. All right, guys. I appreciate it. I hope you have a great day.